It's just ridiculous. So this week we're talking about UFO documentaries in inverted commas, and other conspiracy theory documentaries that are available on the likes of Amazonian Prime, Hollow. Have you seen any good UFO documentaries recently, Damien?
I wouldn't watch documentaries, but I'd watch 20 seconds of just absolute fucking nonsense.
Yeah, it's interesting because there are series on Netflix and I guess recurring on TV, and I guess this is one of the reasons nobody watches TV anymore, is because channels just show this stuff all the time. But there are series where there's like 8 series, and each series has 30 episodes, and each episode is a UFO event that's important to the calendars of believers.
Right, okay.
So there's all these different events, and yet you see 30 seconds of one of these episodes and you've seen every one.
Right, yeah.
It's all the same. It's always someone saying, and an Air Force pilot with 30 years' experience said he knew that the object he saw was from out of this world. Ding!
Dun dun dun.
There's this sting. It's not dun dun dun, it's ding! Like
right,
someone's dropped a hammer onto a synth.
Right, okay.
Zamora describes a craft the world has come to know as a flying saucer.
Bwah.
And that's all you need. We could make a audio-only UFO documentary right now. We don't have to talk about UFOs even. We just have to occasionally end a sentence with ding.
So are we just gonna are we gonna vocalize it ourselves? Are we just gonna shout ding every now and again?
Ding, 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 ding. Oh, ice cream man, ice cream man. No, I've acquired a piece of royalty-free Stinger audio, and I've made it slightly shorter and put a nice kind of lump hammer being dropped onto a concrete floor sound on it as well.
What I really like about that explanation right there is you started off really enthusiastically, and then that enthusiasm almost immediately tailed off.
I was very, very proud to have made something for the first time in 2 years on the fucking synth, and then I remembered what it's for.
I just got the vibe that, you were very excited about it, but as you were explaining, you realised you were kind of exposing yourself for doing all of 20 seconds worth of work.
It was 20 seconds. That's why I was pleased, because I did it so well. I was watching myself do it, and it was like, I know what I'm doing.
There was no cost of real life here, Damien.
Well, but before, when I was, first experimenting with this, I'm not a musician, but I've, put some kind of synth sounds and stuff before. It took a long time because I didn't know what I was doing, and now, it's like, you want me to knock up a shitty UFO at the end of every sentence sort of sting? I could do that. I could do that in 20 seconds, and I did.
Yeah, up the reverb. Good to go.
Yeah. You see, Mum and Dad? You see? The stinger brings me on to the point of, I have never seen a documentary that forwards conspiracy theories that you can take seriously for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why. I think if they really wanted to sell this idea, why not just present their stuff, and it's their stuff like it's a Channel 4 episode of Equinox, and there's no music, there's no stupid stinger, there's no guy who sounds like he's off a used car parking lot. You could present this much more seriously, right? All of this stuff.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, yeah.
So is it meant to be taken seriously, or is it a bit kind of like, oh yeah, I'm sitting here with my sausage fingers. Used to be a cop. I've got a dog now and everything. Bought a lovely new car the other day. Turned out, fucking car, it was fucking haunted. My girlfriend came back. She was cleaning a dishwasher or something. Girlfriend came back. She didn't want to be in the same house, not because I was in the same house, but because my fucking car was fucking haunted. Is that meant to be taken seriously? I'm thinking of a very specific episode.
Yeah, I feel like that was obviously taken verbatim, no?
He was Yorkshire and everything. It was a series I watched. I think it's called Paranormal Survivor. One of the guys is called Henry, And he's a lovely man. He's on the second or third episode, and there's a point where he's talking about being an ex-police officer, and then it fucking dawned on me, this guy's like 70 years old. But he's got like dyed hair, and he's got like a leather jacket, and he's like a big guy, and he kind of looks like he's 40. But then when you see him from the right angle, you see like, fucking hell, this dude's an old man. And it just stuck with me. But he had a problem where he bought like a new Camaro, and it was haunted or some shit.
Oh, and like, what was the evidence? What did he put forth? How did he try to corroborate his story?
Okay, so the night he got it, he looked outside and there was someone trying to break into his car. And then basically he saw someone in his house, and then his girlfriend saw someone in his house, and I don't know. I think maybe they got a psychic. Right. And the psychic was like, yeah.
Hang on. We can get the stinger ready for this, right? Okay. So you said that they saw someone trying to break in, but can you be sure they weren't trying to break out? To his mind. Mind qua.
It is like that. It's like the guy who's on the microphone is one step away from saying something a little bit too close to the microphone. Some people said it was merely a helicopter, but if you look closely, it's quite obviously a nuclear-powered aircraft.
Uncomfortably close.
Who's that musician? I think he might be dead now. From some sort of mouth disease, where his lips would touch the microphone.
I've absolutely no idea. Are there any other stories surrounding this man?
From the 70s or 80s? No, I mean, I want to say it was Reg Dwight, but I don't think it was.
Right, okay. I mean, I've seen loads of people kind of giving lip service to the mic, but was there kind of any reason for it, or was he just kind of into it?
I think that was just his method of singing into a microphone.
Was he kind of vocalizing, or was it just like these kind of gasps and noises and stuff like that?
Oh no, it was a song. It was a song. You would never know this was happening until you saw him doing it live.
And you know, he's filleting it. It's like 6 inches down his throat.
It was
like the fact that he can still like articulate is fucking unbelievable.
No, there was one bit where he had maybe only a small amount, but an amount of the microphone in his mouth.
Oh my god!
Only the rim. But still,
it's just a taste. Just a taste. That's not gay. That's not gay.
But I always thought the person afterwards would it be like, can you hose this down? Can you take the metal top off and just squirt it with some fucking Mr. Duck or whatever?
Some of the purple stuff, you know. Just fucking burn it. It's out. It's fine.
I brought my own microphone.
Oh, wonderful stuff.
Yeah, obviously last week we were talking about the Steve Romanek story, and a lot of the UFO stuff is a lot like that.
Right.
I've seen documentaries that just focus on one person, and I've seen documentaries that mention 120 people and give no one more than a sentence because they've got so much to do. And in both cases, very little actual information is given. It's all stuff like, oh, and I just felt this kind of weird sensation, and I knew that the pyramids were made by aliens, and it's all very kind of like, oh, fucking hell. What evidence do you have, you idiot?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's like a problem a lot of these things have, is as soon as they like refer to any of for lack of a better term, information or something like that, they refer to it as evidence. They can present themselves as almost entirely objectively, but as soon as they use that word, my back is straight up. It's like, for fuck's sakes, no.
Yeah, if you want to be taken seriously, don't list feelings as evidence. And it does happen a lot. I think if you're not someone who's used to these documentaries, that might sound like ridiculous bullshit, but often it's kind of like, well, let's look at the facts. The widow Marie said that she felt weird in the broom closet. Now, if that doesn't mean there's a ghost, I don't know what does. Secondly, there was a dot on the night vision cameras, unexplained dot, And thirdly, this wacko machine that claims to detect the frequency of ghosts that I made myself and I have an agenda and working for me, it was all over the fucking place. Evidence.
It's unfucking believable. Unfucking believable. It was ridiculous. Every time she would leave the window open and the curtains wouldn't move. She'd close the window and then they'd be rifling all over the fucking place. It's unbelievable. Evidence.
And they'd be going when they would be doing it. They'd be kicking all over. It was terrible. Those curtains would be going around everywhere like they were a Victorian scamp being taken away by two bobbies for being a little bit too jolly on the sherbet dips. You know, like kind of like trying to sit down, trying to do a bit of passive progress, but also kicking the legs everywhere. Not trying to kick the policemen, but kicking them everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's way too much sugar here. I mean, it was tantamount to a fit, but we couldn't really say that at the time. That would have seemed insensitive. But nevertheless, the boy deserved to be taken away.
To the workhouse.
Out of the public's gaze.
You know, where there's all those Victorian men who spend a lot of time lifting iron bars with perfectly spherical balls on either end, and also pruning their mustaches, and they turn and see him and they say, welcome to the steel mill.
But it's quite obviously a gym, no?
It's quite obviously a gym, yes. What is going on? Oh, sorry, I started doing Elastica. I noticed as well with these was how, at the same time of being incredulous and very grand and how important is this, it also is. Also, these documentaries are very matter of fact. I wrote down a quote from someone. I think the entire episode was about this person, and the quote is, "I woke up and I knew it was obvious I was being abducted." And I just don't think that it would. You're full of shit, dude, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and almost entirely.
Almost entirely. It was obvious I was being abducted. No, you have some sort of disorder. You know, some sort of dissociative disorder, and you had a very intense dream.
Most likely, but I mean, these people's lives are just so fucking boring. No, they must feel the need that they're going to cling to this with everything they've got.
Is it bullshit or is it self-delusion?
Oh, I think more often than not, a lot of the UFO stuff, the personal accounts will be self-delusion, without a shadow of a doubt.
Right, but do you think that somewhere they do know it's not true?
I'm not quite sure. I remember my grandfather was, I never really got to talk to him much about it in all fairness, but...
Well, yeah, but your grandfather didn't say that he was kidnapped, did he? He believed...
No, but I feel like, my point is that I think he really wanted to believe it was real. Well, you know, those kind of things would be out there. He obviously didn't make the boast that he'd been abducted by aliens or anything like that, and I don't think he ever believed anything like that. But I feel like the people that do say stuff like that will have that
people
in
who
common
want to
with
believe. Yeah.
But
you know, listen. I mean, where I'm coming from, I think that there will be aliens out there. I think there may even be intelligent aliens, and as I said before, I think they may even have visited the planet Earth. But I don't think that they're putting tools at people's asses.
I don't think the best way to fucking to learn about an animal.
I don't think they're abducting people. I think, you know, if they ever did abduct people, it doesn't need to be an ongoing thing. I don't think they've come here to harvest our intelligence or any bullshit like that. I don't think they've come here to experiment on cows. And I don't think that objects people see hovering over city centres and then suddenly disappearing, I don't think they are alien craft. I just don't see why they behave like this. And, you know, it's not like I'm making an appeal for kind of these things to be done more seriously so people can believe. I don't think people should believe or anything like that. I'm just more or less open to, well, maybe aliens could exist, but I wouldn't even say I believe in them. I'd just say I'm open to it.
Yeah, I'll simply state that is potentially an option. Well, not so much an option, but a possibility, yeah. But I won't touch it with a fucking 10-foot pole. unless I'm bludgeoning it to death.
Yeah, I mean, I also believe that there could be some sort of. I believe that there could be some sort of energy behind things that we don't understand, but that, not an energy that has a consciousness sort of thing. There could be that. There could be something people call aura, but I'm not going to factor that into my fucking scientific equations until someone proves it's there. I'm saying it could be there, but I don't believe it's there.
Yeah,
and I think that's where most of the subjects in these documentaries falter, is that they want it to be there, fine, and they kind of they're very open to the idea of, well, it could be this or it could be this. Here are some theories, but they're pretty sure that these things are happening, even though it is really just conjecture.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like they're open to it. It is happening, right?
Oh yeah.
Would you say that's the downfall of these things, really?
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. I found like some really kind of like bizarre theories, right? When I would look into it, there's almost nothing to back any of these things up. And one of these things I thought was quite interesting, which I hadn't heard before, was that it's Queen Elizabeth I, right?
Right. I've not heard this.
Was a boy, right?
Oh, right. Okay.
That she she died of the plague as a teenager, and it's they found like a boy of the same age, of the same measurements, and who looked similar to kind of take her place, and
they couldn't find a girl. Yeah,
well, I guess not. And like when I read through this, like the only thing that I could see to corroborate that was like, well, yes, because she was in fact a boy. That's why she never married. Right.
Yeah. It's just conjecture. It's just something like, well, I suppose that could have happened, but there is no proof of that. There's no evidence. There's nothing really to even hint at that.
Yeah, and what I think is quite interesting about stuff like that is that there's going to be there's not going to be anything generated in the future, in regards to this. I mean, everything is already there. There's nothing else that can be kind of discovered or learned. I'd imagine like the people that are really into it will kind of say, well, there you go. I mean, that's it. We've got everything we need now because it's something that's happened in the past.
Yeah. We're not going to get any more evidence. No one's going to come out of the woodwork and say they know something. It's like, was Hitler gay?
Is that a real one?
That was a Channel 5 one, yeah.
What did they put forth for that?
I don't know, but I imagine it would be things like Hitler writes in his diary that he much prefers the company of men.
Sorry, one of the things I saw was I think it's relatively recently, right? But it's one of the many kind of Elvis is still alive like theories, right?
Yeah.
And you can find it on YouTube quite easily, but there's a guy called The Shadow, and he reckons he's found Elvis, and Elvis is in fact a groundskeeper at Graceland, right? And they've got this footage online and of like this dude.
This dude would have to be like
81. He'd be 81.
81, right?
Right. Maybe a little bit older. It said 81 on the video. I think that was maybe like last year or 2 years ago, something like that. They've got this guy. Just a groundskeeper, right? Kind of what you'd expect. And in like one of the videos, they compare like his gait to like that of Elvis's, right? Which is pretty tedious at best. And there's one video that does like an A/B comparison, which is weak as fuck, but it's quite interesting nonetheless. There's one point where he walks up towards the camera, right, and he throws up this V sign at the top, like at the left side of his head, right? And they've used that as like proof that it's in fact Elvis.
Because of the V sign.
Yeah, because of the V sign. So, like, what happened? There was a video like a couple of months beforehand where this guy had like seen him, and he was convinced it was Elvis. And like I would say, for lack of a better term, it blew up on the internet, right? And this guy, I think, like found out that people was started thinking that he was Elvis, right? So there's another video. The video I just talked about, he walks up past the camera and he throws up a V sign like to the camera, right? And the description in the video. It's fucking wonderful, right? What they say is like the V sign.
I'm
is
looking
in
at it
fact,
now. Go on.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Pay
is
close
in,
attention to the way he walks.
Yes, of course. So the V sign is in fact in Chaldean or Chaldean numerology, which I've never heard of,
Yeah.
is the sign for number 9, which is, as this guy says, proof of life. By signaling the number 9, he's telling us that Elvis is in fact still alive, and he's reaching out to us.
What? And does number 9 in Chaldean numerology mean life?
I don't think so. No,
I don't think so. It's
Very
just a
fucking
leaf.
surprised. I think like what I was getting at is like this is like off the back of a video that was a couple of months old, right? Where this guy has probably started being harassed now by these fucking lunatics, and he knows, right? He's carrying on with his job, right? He knows that they've got these live webcams at Graceland. He knows he's on fucking camera. I think he's just given them the fucking rods. I think that's much more likely.
Yeah. Like, fuck you. That's so weird. The Chaldean Empire, or the Chaldean nation, stopped existing in the mid-6th century BC.
Right, okay.
Neo-Aramaic dialect is what it's called. Why is that connected to Elvis?
I mean, Elvis was in fact a scholar after he went into hiding.
Right, but a scholar of Chaldea?
I mean, I guess this is what these people are trying to tell us, right? I mean,
is it one of these things where it's like Doom 3, where it's like, we'll just put some shit in Aramaic and that'll make it sound true?
So I just don't know with these people. I mean, maybe it is cynical and they're just trying to give it a little bit more pomp and circumstance, a bit of grandeur, make it a bit more credible.
I've seen a lot of stuff that is to do with UFOs that talks about Aramaic. It talks about like Aramaic ruins on a UFO, or it talks about like some indecipherable glyphs, and you can tell that they're they're either just bullshit or they're inspired by Aramaic or something like that, or even kind of like cruciform languages and things.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes me wonder with the kind of prevalence of Aramaic, like, we found Aramaic where we shouldn't find Aramaic. Do these people really, really believe in Jesus or something? Because that's the only connection. That's the only importance Aramaic has, is it's the language Jesus would have spoken, right? Otherwise, it's just one of many, many, many dead languages.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, people found some very old writing in Mayan on the stone, which means it's a stone telling us when the world will end. But if you find some fucking really, really old, unused Russian alphabet stuff on an old stone, people don't say that. People say, it's an artifact from the past, from 8,000 years ago. But people probably put this at the centre of their village, from what we understand. They'd just approach it like that. They wouldn't be like, it means the world's going to end at this time, or it's some secret that we can't unravel. No, it's just some really old fucking writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry to go off on it, but I just don't. Just to get, it's like that moment in fucking Event Horizon where they look back at the tapes of the old crew as they're being killed by these horrible Lovecraftian monsters, and the captain says something, and everyone's like, that doesn't make sense, that isn't an English word. And then someone says, no, that's Latin, or maybe it's even like, that's Latin in backwards language for save yourself, or some shit like that. And it's like,
Spanish.
Why would he say Latin?
It's like, guys, come on, we should have diversified a little bit. We wouldn't have been in this predicament.
Yeah, and it's not only Spanish, it's Spanish like most people would know anyway, without knowing Spanish. The captain's last words were, "No, it's no bueno."
Yeah, no, I mean, it's Spanish with an English accent,
Yeah.
He wasn't fluent. For whatever,
all he said was, "I caramba."
Choice.
I caramba, it's the Latin word for save yourself, don't worry about me.
Oh,
But these UFO things and pyramid stuff and all of this, it does seem to sometimes cling on to a bit of biblical mythology to kind of try and give it some credit sometimes.
I would agree, but it's just a very kind of bizarre choice, really. I mean,
it is a bizarre choice. That's what I'm saying. When someone says, and this passage from the Bible, there will be lights in the skies, that means that towards the end of this century there'll be lots of UFOs. And the reason that's weird is because these people who believe in UFOs aren't Christians. They aren't very religious.
It's like, what's the best way to imbue this with credibility? Or why don't we like kind of try and tie it in with something else that is incredibly scrutinized in this day and age?
Yes.
If it's two bullshit things, then maybe it kind of cancels out.
Well, yeah, but they kind of try and use it as a cover, because that passage in the Bible, a real passage in the Bible, there probably are 100 different interpretations of that, and they can just slip it in, I think is their reasoning. This can be just another interpretation. And our interpretation is just as valuable and credible as the rest.
Well, they will have like 30 minutes to fill, and 24 episodes each year, so you can't blame them, really.
I watched a fucking episode of one of these UFO things the other day called Nazi Aliens. And one of the rhetorical questions asked by the narrator was, why were the aliens helping the Nazis?
Oh my god. And so what was it really talking about?
It was really talking about Hitler's interest in in the paranormal, which is true. He was interested in the Longinus spear, which is the spear that is meant to have pierced Jesus' side by a Roman called Longinus, who was blinded by water coming out of Jesus. The water got into his eyes, and then later he became a blind Christian.
Right. Okay.
That's true, and Hitler wanted that. I think that is true, that Hitler wanted that spear.
What, to collect it, or what was the supposed benefits?
I don't know. I know, but that Indiana Jones thing, that's all based on truth, probably.
Just cover your tracks there, probably, maybe. You don't know. You can't say no.
No, I
think
it
didn't happen.
No, I think genuinely Hitler was kind of interested in the occult, which is why, some of Indiana Jones was some of Indiana Jones. But that doesn't mean that Hitler thought that the Longinus spear was like his key to becoming Jesus or anything like that. Maybe he just wanted it. Maybe he was just interested in it. Doesn't mean he believed anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly doesn't believe that there were. It certainly doesn't mean that there were aliens helping Hitler. It's just such a weird sort of. What a terrible universe we live in, I guess.
I would suppose so. That would be all kinds of suck if there wasn't life out there.
Terrible because aliens thought Hitler was the right person to back, and terrible because aliens couldn't fucking help him win. Like if aliens were going to help someone, wouldn't it be like no contest?
Right. Okay. So what you're really kind of landing on here is your disappointment in this extraterrestrial life that couldn't do fucking shit.
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, like they're so weak that they couldn't help 1940. They couldn't outmatch 1940s technology of the US or Russia. It was kind of like, oh well, lads. We would give you the gamma rays. We would give you the bomb that will kill all the Russians in a 400-mile radius, but not Germans. We would give you that, but that would be unfair. We'll just help you by we'll just give you some moral support.
Yeah, it's a bit of a pat on the back.
Go Nazis!
Chin up, lads. Almost there.
Chin up, lads. What you're doing is almost certainly not right, but go for it. It's just ridiculous.
It is pretty fucking nuts.
And now it doesn't matter, right? Now you can make a living doing this shit on YouTube, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's to say, there shouldn't be... This stuff like that should have died a fucking death now that you've got the internet, no? It's like we don't have to we don't have to cater to these people anymore. They can look after themselves.
I suppose that kind of brings me on to sort of really unscrupulous stuff, because I think on TV, I think what you're saying, I agree with what you're saying, but I think also the stuff on TV, I'm specifically thinking of stuff when it was in mass production in the kind of late 90s, early 2000s, when there seemed to be a lot of it coming out. It was utter bullshit, but most of it was, I would say, quite harmless. Harmless sort of buttery nuttery. Right? But now you have these conspiracy theories like, oh, the kids in Sandy Hook are child actors. I mean,
that's pretty fucking damaging.
That's just shameful, saying stuff like that. I mean, I always thought that, people saying the Duke of Edinburgh ordered Princess Diana's death was pretty shameful, Like, her fucking sons are right there, Don't say shit like that.
Yeah.
Unless you have proof.
Well, Holocaust deniers are also kind of up there as well. One of the things I found, which I thought was quite interesting, was it Ahmadinejad is a Holocaust denier. Now he's gone on record as saying he doesn't believe it didn't happen. He believes that like the figures have been massaged, so it's not however many. He thinks it's like a paltry like 2 million that Jews that were exterminated. And he tries to use this as he kind of states this, saying like, because they massaged this figure and they only killed this much, it should be up to Germany and parts of Europe to kind of find a Jewish state outside of Palestine.
Because it was 2 million, not 6.
Yeah.
So he still accepts that it was a terrible thing, right?
I always got the vibe that it's like, well, if we would have quite happily taken on. Well, I'm sure he would say a burden if you guys have killed more in the first place.
I think it's okay to have a theory and try and find evidence, like do some investigative journalism, but actually do some journalism rather than write a book on hypotheticals about the fucking Holocaust, how the Holocaust didn't exist.
Or, shit like, Queen Elizabeth is in fact a boy. Because.
Yeah, but the Queen Elizabeth thing, what I'm saying is that's just the same amount of bullshit, but it's not damaging anyone. I mean, she died, hundreds of years ago. It's not kind of...
It's pretty remote, yeah.
It's pretty remote, If you were an ancestor of hers, you would look at shit like that and just think, oh, dickhead.
Fuck's sakes.
Rather than be actually angry about it. I don't know, but I imagine, if you're turning on your TV and somebody's saying, oh, these two people who had their child taken away from them on a holiday, they actually killed their child and buried it, and there's no proof or anything, but that's my theory. I think that's awful.
Yeah, you're talking about the McCann story. Yeah, I always remember that was fucking disgusting. And the people that would like say shit like that were basing that on the fact that considering everything we've seen of them in the media and this, that, and the other, they just don't look sad enough to me. So
yeah, you don't know. Yeah, you don't know what they're going through or anything. I mean, maybe they're people who have that rarest of things, so you've not seen it before. That thing called dignity, and they don't want to fucking let you into their life because they're dealing with it on their own. And
yeah, it's like something pretty fucking horrific as well.
All those theories about how they did it must have been so horrible for them.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, and I'm sure they must have been broached by some of these people. Like they would have been like assaulted by some of these fucking nutters at some point or another. That must have fucking crippled. I mean, I imagine nothing could really kind of cripple them beyond what had happened to them. But Jesus Christ, if you're trying to heal and you got that kind of bullshit thrown at you, that would that would push you surely over the edge.
Yeah, it's like the Jean-Benet Ramsey sort of thing where I wonder what's the difference between that and the McCann case. Was it? Do you think that the McCann case was so baseless? Whereas with the Jean-Benet case, kind of looking at all this information which is kind of for and against, it's quite confusing. I don't know.
Well, I would say in the Jean-Benet case, there was immediately a murdered body.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
In the case of the McCann stuff, it was a disappearance for a long time.
A long time. Yeah.
I believe it was in the public. It was on a beach or something like that. So it was was a lot more open. That's not the right word.
There must be stuff about how she was abducted by aliens somewhere.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I just don't think that's a good. That's not. I think that's a very depressing area to go. I would imagine.
Yeah. I suppose that maybe that's an optimistic area in some ways. If you're subscribed to that, like, oh no, she was She was taken by angels.
We can assure you that she is in fact alive. It is an optimistic story.
In fact, I had a dream about her last night, and I wrote a song about her, and the song goes a little bit like this.
Please get off my property. You are in fact at the McCann estate at this point, on the front door.
But that's more like saying things like that is more respectable. It's bad, but it's more respectable than saying you killed her.
I'm sure that they'd appreciate that. Well, are you talking about what you're saying in and of itself, or like what you were saying?
I thought I was stood outside of her door. I'm stood out of her door. I'm
out of her door.
Out of her door.
I'm inside the house, right? They've called the police. I've got 3 minutes before they get here. Damien, what do I do?
You know those little conservatories. You know those little conservatories people have on the front of their house to conserve heat. You know
they haven't seen me yet. I've taken off my shoes.
Yeah, I'm wearing cling film boxes so I don't get any DNA into their house.
See, that's your mistake. That makes a lot of noise. They will detect you sooner doing that.
Okay.
What is the end goal here?
Yeah, find evidence. find the ring binder they've got upstairs somewhere that says how we did it, and all the evidence of how we did it. All I've got to do is snatch that, hide under the bed for 5 minutes, get my timings right, and then get out the front door.
Right,
Throw a rock as a distraction.
So you're not you're not dishing out any justice here. This is just a reconnaissance mission.
Yeah, this is just recon. I'll let the mechanism of justice carry out the justice that the McCanns are justified in having. What other depressing stuff can we put in? Oh, I tell you what. I was watching Alex Jones the other day, and he's bloody good fun, isn't he?
Yeah, I agree with him.
I agree with him. Joe Rogan should calm the fuck down, and if anything, Alex Jones should speak more quickly.
And you know what? Rush Limbaugh, my dad.
Rush Limbaugh. Is he the guy who was orphaned at 60?
What the fuck is that story?
I don't know. I think it's something he said. Never mind.
We'll see what happens. Was his mother contemplated having an abortion, so technically he's a living miscarriage.
The reason we're on this episode is because someone suggested to me you should do films that are more Alex Jones, or you should talk about Alex Jones on your podcast. And I didn't want to just talk about him, but I did think he would come up if we talked about conspiracy theories, because he is a great purveyor of conspiracy theories. He believes something weird about frogs. Let me find that.
It's something to do with something like the reptilian elite, and he's saying well, as ridiculous as that sounds, the reason why is that it's not, in fact, a reptilian elite at all. It's actually an amphibian elite,
an amphibious elite, innit? Oh yeah, so he's famous for talking about chemicals turning frogs gay.
And what, is he just saying this, or does he believe it's part of it's tied up in some kind of conspiracy theory? There's a reason why the government's doing this.
You see, this is the thing which doesn't help. Is I think people like Alex Jones are often kind of misquoted or quoted out of context to make them sound more crazy than they are. From what I understand, Alex Jones was talking about chemicals in water, and one of the side effects of this is that it apparently turns frogs gay, which I'm not saying isn't ridiculous, but I could kind of believe. And his point wasn't about that. His point was that there's chemicals in water. How can you trust chemicals in the water when they're so powerful they can turn frogs gay? How many times am I going to say that? Now, listen, I'm not saying that isn't batshit, but what I am saying is it's not as batshit as him saying they're turning frogs gay. He did have a point. And I think that chemicals in water, there is something there, isn't it? They are doing something to the water, clearly. Can't just be me that's being
actually turn frogs gay? And to what end? Why would they do such a thing?
No.
No, I'm really going to go for it.
But I've also heard him on Joe Rogan, where I was exposed to 4 hours of, well, essentially of this, but with people who are more charismatic.
Oh, I feel sad.
And he was talking about how the CIA seeds, or the NSA, or someone seeds the air with chemicals. You know, he believes in vapor trails and all of this, chemtrails, sorry, things like that. As I said, he has said in the past that Sandy Hook has either been exaggerated or it was all staged. He believes that like some hurricanes are geoengineered.
Oh, what the fuck, really?
He's also said things about white genocide. So yeah, so he's a bit out there.
We were asking what could what could paint more of a target on the back of our head. So when we talk about white genocide,
well, what I was going to say was, I find him interesting because I do actually think he's very entertaining, and he has described himself, or he has described Alex Jones as a character in the past. During, I think, divorce proceedings. So I'm always unsure as to how much he believes. His attorney described him as a performance artist.
I'd be much more comfortable believing that he's all putting it on for the sake of the business that it seems to generate for him than he is, in fact, someone that is absolutely that ludicrously off the scale fucking nuts in that position with that kind of money and, I would suppose, reach.
Yeah, I mean, he has made a lot of money. He's talked about it a bit. And because he is a very independent creator, you know. It's not like he came through Fox or anything like that. It started off, apparently, I'm just reading it now, it started off with Alex Jones talking on radio about various things, including how he believed that the Oklahoma bombing was orchestrated by the US government.
Right, okay.
The Oklahoma City bombing, in which one of, a government building was bombed. Right, okay, and then obviously he went into 9/11 truthism and stuff like that, and okay. Well, yeah, it certainly sounds like he's a conspiracy theorist. I don't know, I mean, do you think that people like him are harmless? No, probably not, really, right?
No, I think in and of himself, I think... I'm inclined to believe that, yes, that it's all a performance, that he's actually... I would say dangerous in the fact that he's very manipulative, but I don't think... I would say he is dangerous in the fact that there are a lot of people that aren't quite as switched on and take this stuff as fact and follow it kind of quite religiously.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was on a film set once. It was Tony's set, which was long and arduous. It was a February shoot, and I slept on his floor. And I really did sleep on his floor. He didn't have a sleeping bag or anything. It was like a sheet. It was terrible. But there was a guy on there who was talking about Planet X, and he was saying, by 2014, our world will be smashed into Planet X, and all of this shit. The 9th planet or the 10th planet, really. And
this person was in employment. Is that correct?
Right. The thing is talking to this person normally, they were completely normal. But they got onto this subject of talking about how they believed in Planet X, and it baffled me because I'd never heard anyone actually talk like this. I'd only ever really seen it written, this sort of stuff, or seen it on these wacky shows. They started talking about it, and I was trying to work out, if you believe that we've got whatever it was 2 years left to live, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to become a kind of jobbing DOP when you're sure that the world is going to end? And I honestly still don't know. I think it's something to do with attention.
Oh, I guess so, right? I mean, he's either having you on because he's bored.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't having me on. No, he really believed this. He wasn't just talking to me.
It must, yeah. I mean, there's no way if you really believe that to your core, it would change how you would live your life. It must just entirely be attention.
Well, yeah, you see these people who believe that the world is going to end and that their church is going to ascend to heaven. They sell everything, they burn everything, they give everything away. He wasn't doing that.
Well, maybe he just thought you were the most interesting person there. He was just trying to impress you.
But also,
it's actually quite touching.
What must you think when you're telling people this? When you're saying to people like, "Yeah, and I've got it in good authority that the world's going to end in a year and a half," and all you ever met with is people saying, "Oh, right, okay."
He walks away, patting himself on the back, like, I opened another human being's eyes.
You must be able to see that no one's interested and no one believes your shit.
They must deal with things in a completely different way. They must see and hear things differently. I can't fathom any reason why they would come to such conclusions, but two, when they must see the backlash from other people, and that would be constant. And if they were met with that and they still couldn't reappraise these ideas, they must just be processing information in a completely different way to, well, I would say you or I.
Right. It's bizarre that you would think, well, I've seen someone like Alex Jones talk about this. I've read some books about this. There are many, many forums where people talk about Planet X. It must be real. These people know. The government doesn't want people to know, but these people know and are free to publish it. If we really did live in a world that's ruled by lizard people, and the Illuminati controls every major business in the world and all of this, and America and Russia are really the same thing, just being played off to keep people occupied, why would these things be allowed? Why would people be on the internet talking about stuff? They'd be shut down instantly. Or we'd just all be slaves already.
Perhaps we already are.
If there were these conspiracies, they'd be disappeared in seconds, wouldn't they?
Oh, well, without a shadow of a doubt.
We've seen many nations, especially I'm thinking in South America, in the 70s, who were obviously a lot less sophisticated then than they are now, and even now are a lot less sophisticated than the US is, very effectively suppress people and keep people quiet and, kill thousands and thousands of people extrajudicially, and they've done it and they've gotten away with it. If the US was like that secretly, why wouldn't that actually just be going on now, effectively? It's because it's not happening.
Yeah, well, you do get these fucking assholes like Stan Romanek trying to say that, what the will of their landlady is in fact the government trying to get rid of a camera.
Yeah, if the government was, so interested, they would just come in and take your fucking camera, dude.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they just they just remove you, no?
Yeah, if the government wanted to silence you, they wouldn't plant pornography on your computer. They just take you. They wouldn't.
I'd forgotten about that.
It wouldn't be a secret. It would just be, yeah, we're just going to take him and kill him. And if you say anything about it, we'll take you and we'll kill you. Because it's been done before in many, many different times by many, many different organizations and nations. And it, maybe it doesn't work forever. Eventually these things fall down, but it is effective. It does work. They don't need to fucking be super weird about it and put porn on your computer, dude. Just fucking kill you.
Yeah, it's not even child porn. It's just kind of like bog standard porn. I mean, it gets it's a bit of
very
foot
boring
stuff. It's a bit weird, yeah. But that's about as weird as it gets.
It's foot
it's actually
stuff,
quite
but it's
vanilla.
not explicit.
Yeah.
It's just a bit of rubbing.
Oh dear. But it's above the trousers, okay? It's not. I mean, it's blue, but it's not too blue.
There's something very pornographic about the word trousers, isn't there?
Well, it depends on the inflection, I would say. How blue can we get it? Say it again.
I'm sorry, how blue can we get the trousers?
How blue can we get the inflection?
Let me briefly mention my thoughts on Stonehenge and pyramids very quickly before we get onto moons. Moons and moon landings, and that's too big to be a moon. I think that the Stonehenge stuff and the pyramid stuff is so insulting to humans, really. This idea that, 5,000 years ago, people couldn't work things out. The Egyptians had mathematics. Maybe it wasn't quite the same, but they had mathematics. The people who built Stonehenge did so over hundreds of years and through a lot of fucking hard work. It boggles my mind that you can't accept that people could build the pyramids 4,000 years ago, but aliens have to come here and build a pile of rocks. If we walked into the pyramids for the first time and we were like, fucking hell, they had air conditioning. What's this?
It's all these halogen lights and LEDs everywhere.
If they had that, if I walked into the fucking Great Pyramid in Giza and at the very end of it there was a working station where I could play Mrs. Pac-Man, then maybe I'd think, okay, maybe there was some sort of outside intelligence that helped this. But not if it's loads of loads of
but
corridors in a big stone structure. That's pretty
But
doable. For
George,
ancient
you don't
people.
see that's the whole point, because it's so advanced, this intelligence, that it knows that being subtle is an important thing. So they downplayed it. You see in the pyramids.
They're made look like big rocks, but actually they are engines.
Yeah, but they're supposed to look stupid.
And
I didn't want anyone to know.
with Stonehenge, if aliens built that, those aliens are obviously not a civilization that, despite having achieved faster than light speeds, they've not achieved a fucking set square. They couldn't make things nice and straight. They couldn't give those big rocks a bit of a polish. They couldn't round off the edges.
Well, maybe it's a long fucking journey. We don't know what this space technology is like. Maybe it involves some kind of physical kind of activity to generate the fucking travel. So maybe they get here, they're fucking knackered. They haven't got the fucking wherewithal to do it. So they just think fucking rocks.
Maybe they're from a planet where the gravity is like a 5% of our gravity. So they got here and they were like, "Fucking hell, it's heavy here."
So let's find the heaviest fucking thing we can find.
Yeah.
That's more triumphant than the human accomplishment.
These little aliens, because they still do it by hand.
And they're really small aliens, no less.
But go on then, you wanted to talk about the moon landing.
I mean, I said that we could, not necessarily that I've had any particular zeal.
Damien thinks that it is impossible for human beings to get through the radiation barrier surrounding our planet.
No. I think that the moon landing was in fact faked, because when they breached the atmosphere and they were making their approach to the moon, they were met by a giant celestial body, and they couldn't make out what it was at first. It was huge, it was round. They found out that it was in fact Tim Allen as Santa Claus.
And then they got tangled up in Tim Allen's Stairway to Heaven, because I imagine his Santa Claus suit is still on him, but it's stretching thin now.
Right.
It doesn't cover it's like a belly top.
I mean, there's almost no discernible detail, right? It's just this massive ball of flesh, right? It's only because it beckoned out to the crowd they had any idea, but they had to fucking zone in on it, right?
And on seeing this, they went, "We're going back to Earth. We're never going to go to space again. We'll just fake it. It was doable, but no.
Because the only thing that didn't expand with that hex was Tim Allen's facial features. Everything else got bigger, but his face seemingly shrank by comparison.
What do you think about the idea that Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing?
I like the idea that it would be Stanley Kubrick, but
I mean, I like the idea
that
the government would say, "We're going to fake the moon landing. Who shall we get to direct it?" Yeah, but guys, who's going to be the DOP? We need somebody who can do versatility.
Yeah, we're going to need some tact and finesse here, guys. A little bit of style. How are we going to achieve that?
Listen, we need somebody who knows how to frame actors. It can't just be about the visuals. It's got to be about how you're going to frame the tension between Armstrong and Aldrin.
He's got to understand the importance of lighting, no?
Oh,
right.
Dear. I mean, fuck me. What a load of bollocks that is.
Oh, but yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, it's one of the more risible ones for me.
Have you seen the documentary about The Shining?
I've seen documentaries about The Shining. Is there one in particular?
You've seen more than one documentary about The Shining? Surely they're exactly the same.
I mean, maybe I'm just looking at making of type stuff. Is there?
Oh, okay. The making of, which is by his daughter, is really good.
Right. Okay.
It's really good because it's just these great observations of how he worked, and there's all this stuff with Shelley Duvall. I'm talking about Room 237.
Right, okay.
Which I heard about years and years ago, people talking about it, and someone was saying, "Oh yeah, they made a documentary about The Shining. It's called Room 237, and it's about how none of the spaces work on purpose. So." One character comes in from the left of the screen and then they come in from the right, and because that happens, it looks continuous in our head, but the way the camera is, it's actually in a different part of the hotel. And they were describing this to me, and I thought, oh, great, that sounds really interesting. Someone's analysed this, and Stanley Kubrick's had this incredibly kind of detailed pattern of placing the characters not where we expect them to be, but without us realising. That sounds so clever and so kind of filmy and great. And then I watched it, and the first thing this documentary says is, Here you can see the beginning of The Shining. Here you can see Stanley Kubrick's head in the clouds. And they're saying that the
It's like Monty Python.
the clouds in the shots, the kind of, the shot of them driving up to the hotel, they say the clouds in that shot are Stanley Kubrick looking down at the car, and and you instantly think, fuck. It's a kook who's done this.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff to say there, right? There's a lot of stuff to say there, but it just starts with that, and that's it. Just fuck that.
I mean, I presume it was all downhill from there.
Honestly, I don't remember anything else. I think I might have turned it off. I don't mind
almost
saying
instantly.
that. Just fuck that.
Righteously fucked off then.
But a lot of people say that there's a shot in The Shining which is Stanley Kubrick's confession to having directed the moon landing.
Really?
Yeah, there's a shot of the kid, and he's playing with a moon rocket. And the carpet apparently is meant to symbolize a moon pad.
People do reach for it. No, I haven't heard that, but I can... fucking hell, people do reach for anything. What I still remember was... I can't remember the name of the website now, but you showed it to me. It was the footage from... No. Fuck it. It was like... It was the footage of the lunar module touching down on the moon.
Do you remember we watched the entire thing together?
Yeah, we did. And there's a website.
www. Sorry, it's called firstmenonthemoon.com.
Right.
Right, and it's exactly what you say. It's 102 minutes, and you've got the air to ground loop and the flight director's loop, and you can hear Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin talking and. Yeah, well, you continue, Damien.
I was just saying it was utterly fascinating, and it to hear people kind of like trying to debate shit like that it's ridiculous. I obviously we didn't see this stuff firsthand, but even watching that many years after the fact was still fucking phenomenal. And I do remember they've got the approach as they are just touching down, and it lists like Armstrong's heart rate at like 220. It's like fucking unreal.
Yes. Yeah, it's so good because you feel like you're there. And, they're doing all the things on the PGNS, Roger, I copy guidance, and all this, and it's like, fuck, this is happening.
Yeah.
It must, all those people in that flight room, that must be the most important day of their lives.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it.
And you look on stuff like SpaceX doing the tests where they're launching rockets and then landing them, and not all the comments, but lots of the comments are great CGI guys, almost fooled us.
Oh God!
And it's just like you people are fucking cancer.
Yeah, they really are. We've got to the point where we're not whitewashing it anymore. They're fucking vermin.
They're fucking cancer. Like the whole flat Earth thing, where people are saying, if you think about our formulas to prove why the world is flat, they don't work in your physics because your physics are inherently based on an idea that we can exist in a world where our planet is round, which is wrong. So essentially, what they're saying is magic.
Yeah.
Right? No, your physics is entirely wrong. Like, no doubt, physics is, has got things wrong and it needs to fine-tune things and it's always changing and we're always advancing our understanding. But that doesn't mean that the basis of physics is wrong. There's clearly a lot right, because how else would we be able to build bridges? How else would we be able to, well, yes, leave our atmosphere and things like that. But much more banal things. How else would we be able to construct things like TVs? Without a very good working understanding of physics and things like that.
Consistency is the important thing here, and we do have like a common thread here.
That's
That's why we believe this works.
We're clearly, advancing in understanding. There's new technology all the time.
We can promise you right now that it is not God's love that's making your TV work.
Yes. It would be funny if that was the conspiracy. If it's like a TV, like 100 years ago, someone found, there's all this God's love around, and I can harness that to make TVs. But
you see all these power stations.
So I can't tell anyone that I found that God is in fact real, and that He's sending love. I can't let anyone know if I'm going to keep up making money from TVs. That's what's important here. That I make money. But the flat Earth conspiracy stuff definitely seems to be coming through now. I mean, I don't think I've seen many TV shows about that necessarily, but I've definitely seen a lot of chatter about it.
Well, you're not going to see it on TV because they're sweeping it under the rug because they don't want you to know.
Yeah, because the gods love people are, they're part of the deep state. They don't want any ideas about the flat Earth coming through. There's some sort of reason behind they faked the moon landing because they wanted to beat the Russians, but in fact no one can leave Earth or something. There's a reason behind there. It may be bullshit, but, there's cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
Why would...
There's some kind of political awareness there, It's not entirely bereft of intelligence.
Why would the government, the powers that be, every government on the planet, why would they want to keep the Earth being flat away from people, and how would they have effectively done that for all of our existence? Surely someone would have found the fucking edge. I'm not joking. I mean...
I think we've gotten to the point where it's just not worth thinking about now.
That's it. Yeah, I mean...
The admirable thing here is that, they have quite a tenacity that is almost enviable. It's just a shame it's not applied to something that's, of worth.
Okay, so on that note, on calling all of this shit and, or pissing off the people who believe in it, I guess, next week we'll be making Disney more gritty. That will be fun.
That will be fun.
That will be fun.
That will be fun.
It will be fun. Daily bread. All right, thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.